No one wakes up and thinks to themselves, today seems like a good day to enter a toxic relationship. But when you look on Twitter, it would seem like it's a choice because people treat it like a choice. Why are you continuing to stay in a toxic relationship? I don't know. Insecurity, childhood trauma, unhealthy coping mechanisms, take your pick.
They call me childish. They call me the Holy Ghost, son of the Most Father. They don't know me.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel and to another episode of the Anxious Extrovert. This one is brought to you by red wine and me liking to talk about myself, as always. The wine that I'm drinking today is this one, Pandora's Box. I've never had it before, but the price tag seemed very delicious to me. Tart. So this episode, I'm going to talk about toxic relationships, which if you've watched my story times, you would know that I have experience in, okay? And I think everyone does actually. The minority is actually the amount of people who haven't been in a toxic relationship. Before we even go far, how do I know I'm in a toxic relationship? No one told me that, especially being a girl child. Growing up in Zimbabwe, you don't leave a toxic relationship. You prey on it. And again, what even is a toxic relationship? According to the internet, the most reliable source, it is a relationship characterized by insecurity, self-centeredness, dominance, and control. How vague is that? But I am a lawyer at heart. So I thought to myself, let me diversify my portfolio. Let me look at a different article. And that one says 38 signs that you're in a toxic relationship. See, I don't know about you guys, but as for me and my millennial mind, 38 is just too many signs, okay? I'm more of a 5 to 20 kind of girl. And the 10 to 12 mark is really the sweet spot if you want me to learn anything. But I will say, the consistent theme in all of the articles that I was reading is that it's basically lack of support, toxic communication, walking on eggshells, and ultimately patterns of disrespect. Technically speaking, that seems easy enough to identify, right? Like, you know when someone is disrespecting you or when they're not supporting you. Those are the red flags that Twitter teaches us about. But does that mean that at the first sign of toxic communication or lack of support, you go whoop, red flag, and you run away? Isn't that toxic in itself? How do you know what are you doing? How do you know what are general kinks in a relationship? You know, the things that people in a relationship work through, and then ultimately they're so much stronger than they were before and they ride off into the sunset. How do you know if it's that or a legitimate red flag? Because when looking at the definition, it tells you about patterns of disrespect. And how do you know when something becomes a pattern? Is it once? Is it 5 times? Is it 10 times? Like I said, no one wakes up and decides to be in a toxic situation, because I think it's different for everyone depending on your background. Say for some of us who may have abandonment issues or attachment issues or, God forbid, daddy issues, because child, daddy issues will have you in a relationship for 10 years screaming he's gonna change because he bought me flowers, okay? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, want a refund. Recently, it's become cool, trendy on the streets to say, my toxic trait is I like pineapples on pizza, and my toxic trait is day, and my toxic trait is not clipping my toenails, etc. But if we're really talking about it for real, say you're putting the toxic in the toxic relationship. Do you have a responsibility to call yourself out on those behaviors, particularly if you don't even know that they're a problem, and also more so if they benefit you? So these are all questions that I'm asking, but if I'm being real, I don't even know the answer to them, okay? In a perfect world, I think people would be whole people before deciding to be in a relationship, right? Like, you're whole, I'm whole. We're now creating this thing called the relationship, you know, self-care and all that. But in reality, I don't think that's how it works, because I can say from my past experiences that your past trauma or your past situations can definitely influence your attractions and the situations you wind up in. And before you know it, you're swimming in the toxic sauce. Because that's another thing. People tend to forget that a toxic relationship is not toxic all the time. Particularly if we're talking, say, in a domestic violence situation. Maybe it's that way for some people, but majority, I would say, it's not like you wake up every day and you're greeted with a punch, you know, and like the whole day you're just being beaten. I think it's like 90% of the time the person is great to you. They're like a completely different person. But it's that 10%. It's that 10% that becomes toxic, right? And if we're in a situation where, one, you don't even really know what a toxic relationship is, two, you don't know if you're in one, three, you don't know if you're the toxic in the toxic relationship, four, what are patterns of disrespect and when does a pattern form and when does it become a pattern? All those things. When you start questioning and dissecting, it gets a little tricky. All this to say, toxic relationships are not fun for anyone. But I think that from what I've experienced, it comes down to two things. One, knowing yourself so that you know if you're the toxic in the toxic relationship, right? And two, loving yourself enough that if you do find yourself in a toxic situation, you know when to walk away because you love yourself. And I guess I can add another one, therapy. I'm all the way here for therapy, whether it's for you as an individual so you can find out about how your past influences your future and how your daddy issues influence your relationship, or if you are in a relationship and you want to work on like couples therapy and things together and avoiding toxic situations together. Either way, 10 out of 10 recommend. One day I will do a video about how coming out of a toxic relationship actually makes it difficult to love a good man without adopting toxic traits. But for today, that's my video. Thank you so much for watching. If you resonate with anything that I said, as always, please make sure you're in the comment section. We're on the journey to 1,000 subscribers, guys. So please, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss it when I upload a video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
They call me the Holy Ghost, Son of the Most, Father they don't